Financial Times analysis has revealed that more than $2 billion has been raised by London-based technology funds in the past 5 years. But these are new funds which have not yet seen an exit. Joining me to discuss this topic is Murad Ahmed, European technology correspondent. Give us a sense of what this means. Give us the context, because in the broader scheme of things, compared to Silicon Valley, say, these aren't massive numbers, but they hint at something that's going on in London and Europe.
Sure. This analysis is looking into the new money that's coming into London. So these are funds that haven't seen an exit, like you said. That means they have invested in companies that have not yet been sold or seen an IPO. So largely what we're talking about is potential and hope. This is money that's flowing into London's, the UK's and Europe's startups, but we don't know whether or not they're savvy bets or this is going to be wasted money down the line.
But this does tell us something. I mean, we've had examples of Google Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, a big Silicon Valley firm, making its first investment in a London-based startup, TransferWise. It does suggest at a kind of culture that's emerging here around investment that maybe is trying to mimic what's happening in the States. Would that be a fair assessment of where we're seeing the space going and moving?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the numbers, from 2010 to 2013, the new funds are all largely quite small. They're based around very early stage investments and seed investments. What they tend to do is write checks of up to $1 million. What we're talking about is startups at a very, very early stage who may or may not survive. It's from 2014 onwards, what you're starting to see is a lot bigger funds of the size of 100 million and more, and usually they have some sort of connection to Silicon Valley, like you say. Google Ventures Europe have set up a fund. There's a fund called 83 North, which is linked to Greylock Partners, one of Silicon Valley's big investors. And what that suggests is they're going to write much bigger checks. They're going to write checks for companies that are growing, that need that really big round of funding to grow into mega global companies. So the way to look at it is, if at the early stage we had the kind of money to build up or at least bootstrap these companies, now we're starting to see the real big money that can help them take off.
Why London? Why is the need to have a presence here physically rather than just investing, coming over, being on the board, etc.? Why London in particular, and why is this happening now?
Well, it's because of the early stage nature of this. If you talk to the VCs that are investing at that early stage, what they say is we need to have a lot of input into the companies to help them grow, to educate them. A lot of these VCs are former entrepreneurs that have sold companies, or they've worked at much bigger funds in the past. So they've got the experience that they can lend these companies. But largely, they have to be close to them. They have to be able to get to them very, very quickly. As one VC said to us, they have to be an EasyJet flight away. And that means London is a great hub for that. It's a great financial capital, but it means that the entrepreneurs can get in and they can get to them very, very quickly. So all this early money does need to be geographically located quite close to these companies. Later on, the big US investors in particular, also the big Asian investors, are more than happy to come in with big wallets and fund these companies once they're a little bit bigger. But at an early stage, you need somebody close by to give that first investment.
London is obviously plugged into the rest of Europe. You mentioned the EasyJet flight, or a short flight away from somewhere to get to other places. Is London kind of a kind of starting point for investing across the continent in the kind of startup scene for many of these big firms?
I think so, yeah. I think particularly in the area that we're seeing these bigger funds, they all kind of set up in London. There are lots of cultural reasons for that, not least speaking English and the kind of American connection to all of that. But I think largely it doesn't really matter where the money lies. If London becomes a hub for the kind of financial centre of it, the key is being able to access all of Europe. There are big clusters growing up, not just in London, but in places like Stockholm and Berlin. And there are interesting funds opening up there as well. What you're largely seeing with this clustering effect is startup funds sprouting right next to the startups themselves.
Murad, thanks very much.